Hello and welcome to our Intro to After Effects class. This is our lesson in layers and properties. And so let's get started. All right, first off, I have a layer called strawberry and a composition. All right, my composition is 120 frames long, 24 frames per second at 1920 by 1080. And of course, my footage pretty much matches that except for its length. I'm going to click and drag to the timeline, and you'll see that I have footage of a strawberry walking. Issue is it doesn't go the full length of the timeline. So I'm just Control D and duplicate that. I'm gonna click and drag and take it all the way to the end. I'm gonna do it one more time, click and drag, take it all the way to the end. Boom. All right, so now if we hit play, it should link up. Whoops, we have a little stutter there. And I think it's because it's a duplicate frame at the head. So just click, drag, boop, click, drag. There we are. There we are. So it's a nice smooth animation now. And actually I have, if we do our math correctly, if this is 50 frames, okay, and then this is 50 frames. This should be 100, so we should have 150 frames. Composition settings, I'm gonna change the settings here. There we go. And I'm going to scale here so you can scale in and out there. And then we can check our length. And our length is actually 147. So composition settings, 147 frames. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want the loop. All right, if I click on that, it should give me a loop. And it might be off by, yeah, there we go. Perfect. All right, so we have our animation. We have 3 layers here. Now, something to keep and consider here, since we have these all put the way that they are, they're all kind of staggered and they're all the same thing. I can make what's called a pre-composition. I can click all 3 of these. I can hold down Control-Shift-C. And what that does is it creates a pre-composition. I believe also you can go up to here to composition, and there's a create pre-composition. Here, layers, where is it at? Pre-composition, there it is. Pre-composition, Control-Shift-C, right? So hit that, and what it will do is it'll basically make it like a container, like a folder where it sits in, or another composition that it sits in inside of this composition. So we're gonna call it pre-comp strawberry. All right, okay. And now everything lives inside of that. So if I double click here, now we have the pre-comps. With the strawberry. All right, so next, let's add another layer. Let's add a solid, new solid. We're gonna add a nice little blue. There we go. Hit OK. I'm gonna stick it on the bottom. But now we have a blue layer there. And that blue layer is just a solid layer. And let's add another type of layer. Let's add a shape layer. I'm going to just pick a round one. I'm going to go here and click this shape here, and let's do maybe a bright pink. And we're going to just click and drag. And if I hold down Shift, it actually, and then also I can hold down Spacebar, I can move it around. I can put it right in the center here. Boom. And there we have our shape layer. Now you see what's happening is each layer is kind of like a different piece of paper. And so if one's on top of the other, you can't see what's underneath it. So if I click shape layer and bring it underneath the strawberry, now I have that shape layer there. I can use this arrow key here and I can move the footage that way. So I can move that shape layer. And if I hit spacebar, of course, it's going to play back. But also to consider, if I hold the spacebar down, not tapping it, just down, I get this little hand icon. And the hand icon allows me to move my viewport around, especially when I zoom in. And I want to look around, hold down that, and I can kind of shift around and look. Okay. Then also a fun one to kind of consider is this, you have the zoom, but I use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. So you have this hand icon and the zoom, those are up there. Once you're in the timeline itself, you have access to a bunch of other tools for those specific layers. Now I'm going to open up the properties layer here, and then you'll see that there's a transform in here. And then the transform, we have a bunch of other options. You have your anchor point. Your anchor point is this little dot here, in fact, this dot there. And to move that anchor point, you need to use the anchor point tool or the pan behind tool. And that allows you to just move it around. If you move it by accident, you don't like where it's at, you hit Control Z and it pops back. All right. That's after it's your undo. So Control Z is undo for anything that you're doing in After Effects. For instance, like I like this shape layer, but maybe I want to rotate it on a different axis. Like for instance, transform, my anchor point's here. And also if you click this little icon there, it opens up the data. So you actually have the information for how the numbers, right? If you want to type numbers in here, but I'm going to move this axis point of this circle just for fun. I'm going to move it over here to this section here, right? And now the anchor point, not axis point, anchor point. Now, if I hit rotation here, you see it's rotating on that axis point or that anchor point, right? And undo versus it rotating in the center, which you can see that, okay? All right, so that's pretty much the properties. And you can also adjust scale. You can adjust the position. I can do that also with my my arrow key, my arrow tool. So I can click and drag these little controllers, right? I can change the opacity down here. See that? And I can also add keyframes, which we'll get into later. But basically, add a keyframe here and move that sucker over to there. And now it will automatically move. So we actually have keyframes automatically going in the properties panel. Undo, there we go. And yeah, let's go over here to our area down here in our timeline. We have these other options, and I'm going to open all of these real quick for you so you can see what's going on. For instance, this one expands or collapses the layer switches panel. This expands and collapses the transfer controls panel. This one does the in and out duration stretch panels, and this one does your render time panel, okay? And all of that is right here. We'll get deeper into that as that time goes on, but just know that you have a lot more options under the hood, and you can do quite a bit with layers. Another fun thing to kind of consider here as well, like for instance, if we're gonna add some more layers, let's look at what kind of layers we can do, like such as null objects or an adjustment layer. And really quickly, if I put adjustment layer anywhere in here, it can go over, let's say, layers, and it will affect those bottom layers. For instance, I have the adjustment layer here above the shape layer and the cyan layer. Let me add an effect, which we'll go over later. But if I wanted to say distort, and I'm going to just do a ripple, I can add the radius of the ripple. See, it's actually give me some there we go, some symmetrical, and you can see I could add that ripple to that circle, right? And it's actually rippling the effect underneath it as well. And that's just on that adjustment layer. You can turn these things on and off too by doing that. And then a null object is basically like if I were to attach, like a pick whip, this thing, see how it says parent to link? I'm parenting the null object, or sorry, parenting the strawberry to the null object. Now if I take the null object and I move it around, the strawberry moves around with it. But if I undo that by going here, parent, and go to none, and I click on the null object and move it around, there you go. Same type of thing, all right? But it doesn't affect the strawberry. Cool. I believe that's it for right now. We will get deeper and deeper into this as we go on. There's a lot under the hood for After Effects, and I just won't bog you down with too much information. So once again, this is dealing with our layers and our properties. I look forward to seeing you in our next class. Thanks.